you know, like all the everyone posting the clips of like her singing whatever the Vengeance or whatever song. I don't find it that sexy because it looks so choreographed and like so stilted, but like
VMA,
her just dancing, I was like, oh fuck, do I think Taylor Swift's super hot?
Welcome, residents, to the Dr. DC podcast. My name is producer Richard, and across from me is the doctor himself.
I've got a blank space, baby, and I'll write your name.
Okay, cool.
I don't know. I'm just trying things.
No, it's young and hip.
Yeah. 1989 only just came out, right?
It was, he won't hear this. It's fine. My girlfriend's sister's husband.
Okay.
Has been down in town lately and doesn't normally live here. He's here alone, like without this family, and so he was like at a family dinner thing that I was at the other day, and he's already a dude with like a mustache, and then he was like, Richard, you haven't said anything about my hair. You're a hip guy. Is this hip?
Oh no!
Again,
don't ask.
He's like 40. Like he's not older that much.
But don't ask.
And it's like a mullet.
Oh no!
It's like the shaved sides, and I was like, I mean, in certain groups.
So he's less hipster and more, I'm dressing like it's the Depression.
Sure,
He's one of those.
Yeah. He plays Frisbee golf. I don't know. And I was just like,
oh, I know the type. You just fucking nailed it for me.
And I was like, I sure, man. I was like, certain groups like that. And he's like, you didn't say hip. And I was like, I certainly didn't.
Wow.
I was like,
that's devastating.
Yeah. And then I was also like, did you consult your wife on this?
That was a critical hit.
Yeah. That's a nat 20, baby.
Yeah.
I was like, did you consult your wife on this? And he was like, not yet. And I was like, that was a mistake.
Oh, Richard used reckless attack.
Yeah. God, you've been playing so much Baldur's Gate.
Yeah, baby.
Each week we talk about the weird and wonderful world of DC while fielding questions from listeners like you.
That's right, baby.
And today we are throwing this podcast into REEVErse.
Wait, what? Oh, I see.
REEVErse. It's the REEVErse.
Yeah. Which is considerably more uplifting than the REEVErse.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, not great.
Oof.
Oof. Seeing stars?
Oh, ooh, yeah.
Excuse me, wow, like this. Oh, you got some of the tinglies?
Oh, okay. That was a lot of coughing, and I did not black out, but I did see some stars. But I felt it like radiate like cosmic energy.
I
touched the monitor mind.
I don't know if that's what that feeling is, but
oh, I could go for that. Tell me something, girl.
Tell me something.
Yeah, listen to Ghostfacers to hear us do Duke Nukem: A Star Is Born.
I just want to take one look at you. See you in hell, you alien bitch. We also did a Gladiator.
Yeah, we said he'd piss himself at the Grammys and go, much better.
So fucking good.
This week's episode, as selected by our Golden Age patrons, we're talking about the universe of, the Christopher Reeve Superman. So, a lot of different directors have been in here, but it also includes like the Supergirl movie, which is part of that universe. It includes Superman Returns, the like Bryan Singer sequel from the 2000s, the Brandon Routh movie. But yeah, that universe, we're talking about Christopher Reeve Superman this week.
So let's get into the questions.
First of all, before we do that, I do want to just take a little pause and say, have you seen the Aquaman trailer?
Oh, I saw a bit of it. Yeah.
It looks like all the stuff I liked from the first one, so I'm in.
Yeah, it
like
was
big fantasy, big fights.
Yeah, there wasn't
underwater
anything
shit.
that was like enough for me to be like, cool. I was kind of like, it seems more of like the same. All right, I'll probably see it.
I'm pumped for it because I liked the first one, and this looks like it's doing the same thing. And
Sure.
don't mess with the recipe, basically. I bring it up though because I read a thing today that was like people are walking out of test screenings of Aquaman, and like when I see that stuff, I go like, whatever, like fuck, because sometimes they go, people love the test screenings, and you watch and you're like, did they?
Well, yeah.
So like I don't really put too much stock in that, but for some reason I clicked on it and I opened it, and it said supposedly people are walking out because of the death of Aqua Baby. And I was like, when I watched that trailer, I was like, they showed the baby and Manta is the main bad guy. They're going to kill this fucking baby. And then I was like, no, they won't. They don't have the stones to do it. And then I saw that note and I was like, I guarantee they note it to death and it doesn't make it to the final movie. But like, that's some cojones if you kill a baby in your big $1 billion Aquaman movie.
I would be so happy.
That's like, you know, that's independent of whether or not it's like supported by story and like actually done well or anything like that.
But to do the thing, yeah.
But just to swing for it, it's like, I fucking respect. I kind of want to see it more now.
Yeah.
Not that I'm not like relishing in like
baby dead,
in like baby murder, but like just a movie having any stones at all, you know? Like,
yeah, definitely.
I'm like, that kind of makes me want to see it.
Totally. Yeah, no, I started
like,
seeing
I
it.
was going to see it anyway. Like, I'm in, but I was like, that's intriguing.
Yeah, but where's Pitbull?
Well, we may never know.
I mean, truly. I want to picture him with a Kodak.
Yeah, I hope they show him with like squid tentacles. He just lives in Atlantis. Yeah.
Yeah, they make him like an octopus or something.
Yeah.
And he plays the drums because that's the only
No,
instrument.
Topo is in this fucking movie. He's in a couple of shots. I saw it in the trailer.
Holy shit.
Topo's fucking in there,
They've
baby. Storm the Seahorse is fucking in there.
Well, there you go. But we're not talking about that today. We're
No,
talking about
I just wanted to bring it up.
REEVErse.
Yes.
So, let's get into the questions.
Let's do it.
From Facebook.
Going to the face and the book. Going to the Facebook.
First question comes from Braden Ketty, who asks, Lex Luthor being a greedy real estate mastermind, comical, interesting, or a commentary on the modern housing market?
I mean, it can't be a commentary on the modern housing market. The movie came out in 1978.
And was also set in like...
It's set in 1978.
Is it? Yeah, okay.
Oh, if you're not sure if the movie's set in 1978, look at what Lex is wearing.
Fair.
His like insane jacket and shit like that. So yeah, the question is the kind of manic real estate thing interesting or not? I think it's fine. I think the thing we have to remember is that the Luthor we know and love today really didn't coalesce until kind of after this movie.
Really? Like even in the comics?
Like the business, like that, like real like businessman Lex kind of thing. Not just that Lex was rich or that he ran it, but like the persona of businessman Lex comes a lot later. It comes like in the 80s. The Lex that we take for granted now still wasn't really a thing. Like Lex in the 60s and 70s was like either full supervillain, like wearing the suit and chairing meetings of the Legion of Doom, or he was like on other planets, like doing mad science stuff. The idea of just like the billionaire, like being like, and I own Metropolis and I'm blah, blah, like that's not really a thing at that point. So
he was bald though.
Yes.
In the comics.
And he is in the movie.
Is he?
He is, but he's wearing a wig.
Oh.
It gets revealed later in the movie.
Okay.
But so in a way, I don't hate it. I don't really love Gene Hackman's Luthor. Like, I don't think it's a good like interpretation, but I'm also applying.
Yeah. Understanding where Lex was at.
I'm applying the Lex I like backwards, which is sort of not fair. I think my problem with Gene Hackman's Luthor is more that he's a little too gleefully evil, which again, in the era, Luthor was a little bit more like that. He's like, I am an evil mastermind or whatever.
Sure, yeah.
Like, it's missing the nuance of a guy that thinks he could do no wrong, or even when he knows he's doing wrong, he goes like, well, but at least I'm not a filthy fucking alien. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
There's something missing from the chemistry of Luthor there that you can't really blame Hackman for, and you can't really blame the movie for. But it just ends up being a thing I don't like. Like, there's a line in the movie where Superman says something like, is this what, like, makes you happy, like, planning to kill a bunch of innocents? And Luthor goes, no, killing innocents makes me happy.
Yes.
And you go like, oh, that's I don't know that I'm, like, super into that. Like, a Lex willing to kill is totally on board for that. Yeah. But, like, I also think he just views it as, like, I mean, you got to crack a few eggs. Not like, I love killing. You know what I mean? Like, it's different. So the real estate thing is fine because at least it's still business related. He's planning to make money or things like that. And there's a little bit of science to it, but because he's going to use, like, bombs to affect the fault line, and, like, California will sink into the sea, and then all his property will be oceanfront. It's a very, like, convoluted plan.
That's also very dumb.
Yes.
But also, I don't think that it's a commentary on modern housing market.
No, I mean, how could it be?
No, it's just stupid.
Yeah.
All right. Next question. From Ron Swallow, gulp, who asks...
Yeah. His evil twin, Rob Spit.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No. I don't be sorry for that.
That was fucking stupid. I really Gene Hackman did.
Would Routh have been a better Superman if given a better script?
Routh is a great Superman. I want to be on the record there and say I think he's great.
I think so too. I think he gets that sweet farm boy thing perfect.
Here's the thing. He's very young in that movie.
Partly the problem.
A movie that those Superman Returns is essentially meant to be a sequel to Superman 2, more or less. And he's so young in it. And so I think part of the issue is that he doesn't quite have the gravitas that Christopher Reeve had.
Yes.
Even though he's playing that Superman. But he has the optimism, and he has that kind of, like, I don't know, that sort of longing thing that Christopher Reeve could portray. And
yeah.
I think Brendan Routh gets it. But that movie doesn't do him many favors. Like, his dialogue's not great. And he's in a lot less of the movie than you'd think he'd be.
I mean, yeah.
And a lot of the movie is just him under a giant kryptonite island. The problem with that is that he's not allowed to really explore that character. Now, the proof for me is when Routh gets to revisit his Superman.
He's 27 then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he looks way younger.
Yeah.
Like,
but even 27 is pretty young, yeah.
But when he gets to go back to it in Crisis, him playing that Superman, like, talking about, like, you know, hope cut, like, he has the black shield, and they go like, why? He goes like, because even in times of darkness, hope cuts through, and you're like, oh fuck, like, he's Superman.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy when you watch Crisis because you've been enjoying him as Ray Palmer. He's really fun on Legends and stuff, and he was good on The Flash and on Arrow, and you're like, man, I really like this guy. Then you see him play Superman, and you're like, why has he not been playing Superman the whole fucking time?
Yeah.
He's so good to the point where they kind of have to be careful with Tyler Hoechlin in that one.
Yeah.
Because they put them on screen at the same time and you go, one of you is Superman. And I
think Tyler Hoechlin's like the best Clark.
And I think he's a good Superman, but you put them in a scene together and it's like, it's kind of like watching Mike Tyson fight a baby. Like, it's
hey, you get that thing you love. Kill a baby.
I on the record love that. Kind of makes me interested. But like, yeah, I think Routh is an outstanding Superman. He gets it. He has like all of the sort of like, he conveys so much emotion in his physicality, in his like voice, in his tonality. He has a softness while being imposing. Like he does all the things that you'd want a great Superman to do. He's in the wrong movie. It's like, Pierce Brosnan is an amazing James Bond in shitty movies. Or like, it happens sometimes. Ben Affleck, a great Batman, and what the fuck did they give him? This is not the first time, and it's not the last time that this happens to someone. And they haven't been able to... Most people don't get a chance at redemption. He got one, and I think he totally earned it,
Totally.
Yeah.
All right. Next question means we're leaving Facebook and we're heading over to Blue Sky.
Oh, cheap. There's birds up there.
Hey there, Mr. Blue
Fuck.
Sky.
I mean, it is Mr. Blue Sky.
Oh.
You added it like you were adapting but that is actually how the song goes.
Oh. Well,
it goes, hey there, Mr. Blue Sky. Like,
oh.
Yeah.
Then I did on purpose.
Nice.
Hell yeah.
Anyway.
Question from Blue Sky comes from Mullet.
Excuse me while I check Blue Sky.
Hey, there we go.
Fuck.
So many other better ones than fucking cheap.
Listen, it wasn't my best.
From Mullet Overlord, who asks, was the evil businessman who was backing Richard Pryor in Superman 3 originally supposed to be Lex?
Right. So in Superman 3, there is like I can't even remember what the company is called. But this company basically like funds Richard Pryor. It helps him build a insane supercomputer.
Yeah.
Hires Richard Pryor to like hijack weather satellites to like attack people and shit like that.
Yeah.
To go after Superman and whatnot. I think almost certainly in a different version of that script, that would have been Luthor. But the thing to remember is that Gene Hackman basically refused to play Lex Luthor after the producers got rid of Richard Donner. Richard Donner was the director of the first Superman movie and most of the second one until he was fired and replaced with a guy named Richard Lester. And Lester then directed Superman 3. Both Gene Hackman and Margot Kidder had big problems with the way the Salkinds got rid of Donner and that relationship, which is why Margot Kidder, Lois Lane, is basically written out of Superman 3. That's why Lana Lang is in that movie.
Oh.
It's played by Annette O'Toole, who then later would be Ma Kent on Smallville.
Oh, okay.
But the reason that she's in that movie is because they write out Margot Kidder. Like Lois is in like bookend pieces in Superman 3. Luthor's not in it at all because Gene Hackman was like, "Fuck you guys, no." And so it's just a generic random businessman. I think you could bet your bottom dollar in a different version of that script that would have just been Luthor. But there's also all this rumor about like the what could have been of Superman 3, where like the supercomputer thing, you go like, were they trying to do Brainiac? And you go like, there's a version of that where I think a more explicit Brainiac might have been in there, like Luthor and Brainiac, and then it became this watered down like Richard Pryor's character is just called Gus Gorman. He just builds a supercomputer that gains sentience and tries to kill Superman and creates a cyborg woman and stuff. Like, that's Brainiac shit. Yeah. There's a version of that movie where it's all more explicit.
But that's still in the past where people are like, well, yeah, but that's kids' stupid comic book shit. Like, we can't. I
think that's part of it, although they did just come off Superman 2 with, like, Zod and the Phantom Zone.
Well, okay, sure.
But there's something in there which is that where they pull back from the full idea. And part of it, I think, is what you're talking about. The slight,
studio notes
can we do, like, Brainiac? And part of it is, fuck, Gene Hackman won't come back. And so you just end up with this very, like, plain... Like, it feels like when you pick up... when you pick up, like, an issue of Superman from the 60s, and you're like, who's the bad guy in this one? You go, like, this guy's name is, like, Fred Billing.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're like, I guess we won't see him again.
Yeah. Yeah.
It kind of has that feeling.
Totally.
Yeah.
We're leaving Blue Sky, and we're heading over to Threads.
Threads.
Best one yet.
It's easy.
Who asks what happens when the Star Spangled King gets a little bit randy? Finger Stripes 13.
That's some sort of like gross playground thing. Like, hey, have you earned your finger stripes yet?
Yeah, I got 13.
Jesus. Good Lord.
Who asks, how did you guys feel about the use of George Reeves and other deceased performers' likeness through CGI in The Flash? Which I think is really... This is two questions.
Yes. But I added it because this question came in after we had recorded last week.
Sure.
But it's relevant because Christopher Reeve also appears in that sequence. We've both seen The Flash.
Uh-huh.
What did you think of that? I mean, let's set aside the quality of the CGI. Let's talk about just the idea of what was happening in that sequence.
I liked, the concept of what was happening was cool.
Sure.
Love the idea of pulling in a multiverse of like characters that have played things from movies. Smart idea.
Sure.
As long as the family is like being compensated and...
Which, if I had to put money on it,
yes.
They're not.
Yes.
Almost certainly. It's Warner Brothers. It's
yes.
like such a Craven studio.
If it was part of their in a contract, which it wasn't, and the family was being compensated, which they probably weren't.
Almost certainly not.
Then I think it's a great idea. Love this. Love when they do this.
Yeah.
The use of AI to like bring characters back and stuff like that. I
don't even think it was that. I think they just had people animate it.
Yeah.
But
like that idea, I'm
always
cool
with your fucking AI. Jesus.
I said a lot of good stuff that was behind
You're
that.
Gus Gorman.
All right. Yeah, let's get rid of all writers. I only want AI.
I told you this is what he thought.
Fucking
no
idiots.
one believed me.
Anyways, what about you?
I agree with you, which is that like I think leading up to watching The Flash, I'd seen a lot of people go, "This is disgusting," blah 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 blah, and I was worried that it was going to be
Christopher Reeves were blowing George Reeves.
Well, I was worried it was like like Christopher Reeves showing up and doing a dick like some joke or what, like besmirching the name. That what's actually presented on screen, I think, is relatively tasteful. It's just like a look at all of the history of these things, and you just see him, and he's in the pose, and you get the music, and Helen Slater, Supergirl, is there. Like, do I think that moment means anything in the story? Like, no. Like, I would argue
it's a cool fan service thing.
It is, but like, it barely makes sense even in the story of the movie.
Sure.
Like, it's just there because they're like, show them we have a multiverse.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's such clearly a studio note. But like, what we're seeing is just like Superman looking like Superman. Christopher Reeve in that kind of pose and stuff like that, or George Reeve in that pose, and you go like, well, that's fine. It's not like we didn't walk in on George Reeve like beating Lois, or like on Christopher Reeve like doing like, it wasn't like, and in this universe, Christopher Reeve Superman loves cocaine.
Yeah,
like, we're not doing something like besmirching thing. But I do think the besmirching thing is like the thing you're talking about, which is like, it's doubtful that the families are compensated or things like, technically, legally, Warner Brothers is probably allowed to do it, but like, is it right?
Yeah.
Now, there's a cognitive dissonance thing here because I didn't have a problem with the Peter Cushing thing in Rogue One.
No.
But it's the same thing, and maybe I should have a problem with that. I can't explain to you how they're different. I don't think they are necessarily, but like, I watched Rogue One and I was
compensated though. They probably
were.
I
I don't know, but I was like, oh, it's cool that's how they work that in. I just thought it was neat.
Yeah,
I wasn't maybe putting enough critical thought into it. So for me, like, in terms of what was presented, I didn't think they were doing something disrespectful, but on the production end, or the like, should we keep using people's likenesses after they die without express permission? Like, and again, I don't know what the situation. Maybe they got all the permissions and stuff. I don't know. I have a suspicion they didn't, though, and that feels weird and gross to me.
I fully agree with
that.
All right, let's move on Threads and go to Instagram.
Now we're going to Instagram, take some questions and answer them.
What the fuck? This podcast is like jazz. It's when he's not coughing.
I could feel it coming.
Yeah. In the air tonight. First question.
I love those TikToks where it's people
falling or like shit smashing into stuff. The fucking garbage cam. Oh my god.
So good.
All right, first question comes from Copy 801,
Okay.
who asks, how do you feel that the Superman 78 universe did not include Batman 89 in the Flash film? According to the Flash tie-in during Dark Crisis, they are supposed to occupy the same universe.
I've got a two-pronged answer to that.
Okay.
So, first of all, my opinion on it is that I don't care.
Yeah.
The two-pronged answer for the why, though, is we don't know that Batman 89 isn't in that universe. If you're saying it's not because Michael Keaton is in that one timeline, it's like it's an infinite multiverse. There's more than one Michael Keaton out there.
Yes.
And you know what I mean? Like, we just see Superman and Supergirl, but if we looked around a corner over at Gotham, 89 Batman might be there.
True.
So first of all, we don't know that he's not in that universe. And secondly, if he's not in that universe, the two of them are together in a different universe, and that's the one that Flash comic is referencing. You know what I mean? Like, it happened somewhere. Because, again, infinite Earths, right? I think that is a hard concept to reconcile sometimes, which is like anything, anywhere is happening.
Yeah, there's one where they're both made of flowers, like
totally, and they're both in the same universe.
Yes.
And then there's ones where they're made of flowers and they're not.
And
like,
yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like every possible version. So, I mean, I've never needed the movies to even line up with the comic continuity. I know the comic makes an explicit reference to that movie continuity. But also, yeah, I mean, it doesn't bother me not to see Batman 80. Like we're already cramming these fucking cameos into that movie. We don't need to cram a cameo in the background of another cameo. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need that. But I would just also say to you, if that's important to you, just remember, we didn't see the entire universe there. We just see one rooftop with Superman and Supergirl on it. There's nothing to say that Batman 89 isn't in that world's Gotham.
Exactly.
So,
next question comes from Mitch Cochran, who asks, why do you think we never got another Brandon Routh Superman movie? I remember it being hated on so much, but it seemed to produce decently at the box office and has a 74% on Rotten Tomatoes. Am I tripping?
I don't know if it produced decently at the box office. I mean, well, sorry. I think it's the 9th highest grossing movie of that year.
Okay.
Which is fine. But I don't think it produced the way the studio wanted it to. Like there's such a more complicated calculus to box office than did you make your money back or did you make X amount of money? Because the thing that you'll hear a lot nowadays where people are box office obsessed is we know that the marketing budgets aren't included in the production budget. Yep. So if they say the production budget is X million dollars, you got to add marketing and promotion on that, which means that if you're like, oh, it made its budget, you go like, well, did it?
Sure.
And I mean,
that's how they always get away from not paying residuals.
Back then, there was still the model of you could make your money up in like DVD or in like home release kind of. You didn't have to make it all at the theatrical, but I think Warner Brothers had a bigger target in mind. And it's not necessarily that it like lost money, but it was that it didn't do what they wanted. And I think there was a sort of tepid reception to it. Like, it was fine. There's stuff I really like about that movie. I think that airplane rescue is, like, peak Superman. Like, I think that's one of the best Superman sequences put to film, is that airplane rescue.
Yeah.
It's great. Top to bottom, amazing. But so much of that movie is plotting and, like, there's barely a plot to it. And like Superman doesn't actually have a lot to do in that movie. Brandon Routh is quite good, but he's doing a lot with very little, I think is the thing. And I think we needed a better balance of like super heroing.
I think also at the end of the day, it's such a fucking weird pitch after you get Batman Begins to then make Superman Returns, where it's like, hey, remember that old Superman? I know you just saw this cool, realistic version of Batman, but now we're going to do a sequel to that with not the same actors, but set in the same time period and a weird sort of like 70s vibe to the whole thing.
I mean, it's not, though. It's set in the present. You're just, he's kind of hand wave the time.
But also, like, a lot
difference.
of the, like, props and, like, set dressing feels
well,
very...
they do make it kind of Art Deco. Like,
yeah, it feels a little off, and I think that's the problem is it's like you on the back of Batman Begins, which also is like, hey, a DC property can make this kind of money, and then you make this.
But Batman Begins, like, did well, but The Dark Knight is the one that, like...
But still,
went crazy,
I think that
you know, like...
that started the conversation about a realistic character, and I think that was what was in the zeitgeist, and that was a year before.
Yeah, I mean, I don't subscribe to the everything needs to be the same way thing, but you're probably not wrong in that it was part of maybe the reason it didn't do...
Yeah.
There were competing expectations of what these movies were bringing to the table, and then there's an overcorrection to Man of Steel, which
100%.
Again, I largely like Man of Steel, and it does a lot of things that I was like, holy shit, like that's cool. But then it has a few things where you're like, ugh, like that's all right, you know.
But I think again, this had like a 70s sensibility, even like with the promotion, the artwork, like everything for me felt like it was like classic Superman, like.
I think Superman Returns is it's on more of a right track for a Superman movie than Man of Steel.
I agree.
The thing that it's missing that Man of Steel got right, but ignoring what Man of Steel didn't get right, is that Man of Steel is like exciting.
Yeah.
The reason that airplane rescue works is like the pace of that scene, the visuals of it, like that's an exciting thing. Like he doesn't just fly under the plane and catch it. He grabs the wing, he tries to like stop it from spinning, and then the wing rips off. And then we have all this sequence of him trying to catch up to the plane again and it landing in the baseball diamond. Like there's like cool shit happening in that sequence. Yeah, and then from that point on the movie's like, and I think that's enough of that.
Yeah.
And then even at the end, like he doesn't fight Luthor. Luthor stabs him with kryptonite, and then Superman very like stoically and calmly Jesus lifts an island of kryptonite into space and then falls back to Earth, and then he's fine. But like there's no battle. I mean, listen, there's different approaches to things. I'm not saying there's only one way to do it, but I do think there's an excitement piece that's missing in Superman Returns.
Yeah.
That Man of Steel partly gets right. And somewhere between them is the real mix, you know?
Totally.
Yeah.
Next question from That D the Geek, who asks, do you think throwing the S off his chest is a power they should put into the comics? I feel like there's got to be a great way to do it.
So that's in Superman 2, where he's in Superman 2, Zod and Ursa and Non escape the Phantom Zone.
Yes.
And come to Earth and start taking over and terrorizing. And partway into this movie, Superman has given up his powers. He's gone into this Kryptonian deep power matrix or whatever, and he's given up his powers, and he needs them back. And it can't be done, blah blah blah. And then there's crystals and Jor-El or whatever, and then it happens. And he tricks basically Zod and Ursa and Non into losing their powers in the fortress. And when they try to come after him about it, one of them leaps at him and he grabs the S on his chest.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, he doesn't peel it off. The S stays on his chest, but he peels something off, like a cellophane S, throws it. It kind of wraps around them, and then it sort of dissipates, and then they like fall into a chasm.
What?
It's a never before seen power, a rarely seen after power. I do think that the Superman 78 comic uses it again.
Really?
Yeah. I think it uses that power again. But yeah, it's a weird one. I don't really get, but again, like Superman in these movies has weird powers. Yes. Amnesia kiss.
Oof, yeah, let's not. I mean, listen to our commentary track.
I don't think we've done a commentary on that one. We have on Oh, no, he uses it in Superman 4. Son of a bitch. He uses the amnesia kiss in Superman 4. You're right. Masonry vision, speaking of Superman 4. Yeah, Superman has weird powers in the movies. I guess not weirder than powers he had in Silver Age comics, but it's still
that's the thing, right?
Kind of like, if you're just going into those movies and you're like, I know what powers Superman has, you're kind of like,
no, you do not.
Oh, you don't. But yeah, that's what the cellophane S thing, if you ever hear someone talking about that, that's from Superman 2. And yeah, he throws it and sort of incapacitates one of the Kryptonians, and then they fall down a chasm kind of thing.
As you do.
But they never explain like what it is. He doesn't go like, oh, it's a Kryptonian, blah, 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 or like it's made of kryptonite, or like there's no, he just does it and you go, okay, well, that was narratively convenient. And then you just kind of move on. Like, it's a Deus Ex cellophane.
Okay. Next question from Ben Forsh.
Or I guess cellophane ex machina. But.
Yeah. Ben Forsh, do it.
Oh, lock the door if you're in the fortress.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Throw a S.
Yeah, Ursa, Non and Jod.
Superman the movie is often considered to be the first big comic book movie.
Right.
Where do you think comic book movies would be today if they hadn't got this one right?
Here's the thing. When you look at those Superman movies, Superman 3 is a mess. Superman 4 is a cheap mess, though probably better than 3, really, if we're being honest. It's just cheap. It's just poorly made, but it's actually probably better than Superman 3. Superman Returns is boring. All these kind of things. But think of all the people that cite Superman and Richard Donner as a major influence. Do you know 2 people that like interned with Richard Donner? Jeff Johns, Kevin Feige.
Holy shit.
So, you know what I mean? Like, the mark, the potential impact, like the legacy of that one Superman movie, even ignore Superman 2, but just the legacy of Superman, of that movie, is the inspiration behind a bunch of other people who go on to help shape what these movies are.
That's crazy.
You know, Kevin Feige, very obvious, but also like Jeff Johns shaped like an entire generation of DC Comics and approach to story and stuff like that. Worked with Donner on Action Comics for a bit and stuff. Like there's...
We wouldn't have 7 of anything. We would have like 6 of stuff.
Could you imagine not having 7 of something?
That's insane.
But like they're not the only ones. I'm sure someone that like worked on like the, you know, X-Men or like, you know, like these other things, like there's all the steps along the way of how are we doing with superhero movies, and some of them are shit and some of them are good and some of them get redeemed later or whatever. But every step along the way is inspired by the stuff that came before it, and they all trace their genetic code back to Superman. So you might look at a Marvel movie now, like Black Panther or like whatever, and you go like, I don't really see Superman in this. And you're probably right. But that's the same like as saying like, I don't see, you know, like 20s jazz in rock and roll. Be like, just trace it back. You know what I mean? Like, just go backwards. Each step along the way, you see the thing that inspired the thing. You know what I mean? So if Superman... It's a different question than if Superman didn't exist, if that movie didn't exist. But if it didn't do as well, fewer people saw it or whatever, it's not that I don't think we would get around to these things, but maybe it would take longer. Who knows? Maybe we'd go quicker. If fewer people saw it, maybe someone would be like, you know what I really want? I want like a real earnest, great, like, it's really hard to do the what if game in the timeline. But all of that to say, if you... go just read interviews with people that work on comic books or superhero movies or TV shows and that. Look at how many of them trace things back to Christopher Reeve's Superman. And it's like shocking amount. That movie is like indelibly important in the lineage of like the comic book medium and like comic book storytelling and superhero storytelling and stuff like that.
Like if it didn't exist, I don't think we would have superhero movies the way we do today.
or they look very different.
Yeah.
Or we would get it eventually, but maybe we just...
No Feige, but that's what I mean.
Well, yeah, certainly just the direct knock-on effects that way. Yeah, totally. But
that's crazy.
Yeah.
All right. Next question means we're leaving Instagram and heading over to Reddit.
Where everyone's nice and no one's ever mean.
It shall not pass.
Oh, Constipated Gandalf?
That's right.
Who we met.
Yes,
at
we
Fan
did.
Expo.
Yeah.
He was a little backed up.
Yeah. Very funny.
Yeah.
Who asks, what did you like and hate about Superman 3?
Oh, have you ever seen Superman 3?
I don't know if I have.
The one with Richard Pryor?
I don't know if I have.
Have you ever seen the junkyard fight?
Yes, you've shown me this.
Where they've split in two. There's
Yeah,
a bad Superman and a good Clark, and they're fighting in a
yeah.
junkyard. That's Superman 3. If you've ever seen the meme of Superman just drinking at the bar, that's Superman 3.
Sure.
Man, there's it's a bad movie. Here's some of the pieces that I like. I think Richard Pryor's pretty good in that movie.
Yeah.
I think Christopher Reeve is great in that movie.
Really?
He's being asked to do very dumb things, but the way he, we always talk about that scene in Superman 2 where he goes from being Clark to being Superman, just how he physically changes. But then we add another layer to that in this movie where it's a bad Superman, a kind of Christopher Reeve. He could do anything. He was so good, A lot of what hurts this movie is that they don't go far enough. It should just be Brainiac. Yeah. Richard Pryor's character should just be, what's his name? Melvin, whatever. The Silver Age version of Brainiac. Melvin Fine. I can't remember what the character's name is, but he's the Silver Age Brainiac. The supercomputer thing should be the Brainiac thing, and he's just the kind of fleshy part of it, or what. Just go further with it. The movie suffers for not having Lex and not having Lois in it, because you end up doing this thing where it's is Clark are Clark and Lana gonna be a thing now? And you go what about Lois? Didn't you love Lois? You kind of I don't love that. I think some of the action stuff's not that good in Superman 3. I think it starts looking cheaper than the first two movies. And a big problem in general is that Richard Lester prioritizes comedy over stakes. In that way that sort of can undercut moments, It was what if he straightened the Leaning Tower of Pisa? Wouldn't that be a bad thing to do? Or... Yeah, it's just it was a complaint that people had with the Lester cut of Superman 2, because they fire Richard Donner partway through filming Superman. Richard Donner's kind of the original Snyder. He gets fired partway through Superman 2, and Richard Lester reshoots some stuff and finishes the movie.
Sure.
And prioritizes comedy.
Jesus.
And that's a thing in there. If you watch the Donner cut, it's... Not that it's gravely serious, but it's got weight and stakes. And Richard Lester is I'd rather tell a joke.
Sure.
And so I think that's a weak point in Superman 3 too. But ultimately, the problem with Superman 3 is just that there's no story. Why is any of the stuff happening? You go no reason basically at all.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Superman 3 is basically a movie I have no desire to rewatch.
And that, for you, that's something.
I'll rewatch all sorts of crap, even if it's bad. But Superman 3, I just kind of I can't be bothered. It's it's too boring, and I don't like it. I would only watch it in the context where I'm I am doing a rewatch of, and then I would. But that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Next question comes from Golden Ganji, who asks, why is Reeve mentioned in so many Eminem songs?
I mean, is he? Superman.
Yeah. The problem is I think he mentions him a lot when it comes to paralyzing.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's just like his rap shorthand for like.
I'm going to do that to you. Yeah. And I think that's the problem, is that it's like a shock value, easy reference for paralyzing
Oh,
someone.
that sucks. To be honest, I never clocked it outside of the fact that Eminem has a song called Superman. I've never been like, wow, he talks about Christopher Reeve a lot.
Yeah. That's my guess, is shock value, and it's an easy like shorthand for
Interesting.
paralyzing somebody.
Yeah, that's funny. I mean, I like Eminem. I just truly never caught that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Anyways, let's leave Reddit and head over to the doc scored.
Oh, hang on. I can keep a doc scored, can't you? Got my mind on my doc scored and a doc scored on my mind. Got a taste of the docs. I just want to take a scored.
Do you had that like locked?
I was singing it in the car and I was like, I should use this for the,
Wow, for the first time ever.
for the first time ever.
You thought, what if
And then I almost couldn't remember what it was. Panic threw me.
Incredible.
I'm obviously a little bit sick right now.
Are you?
Well, I mean, sick. I'm having an asthma thing. That's what I mean.
Wow. First I've noticed.
But every time that happens, my voice goes lower.
Oh, yeah.
And I think I could probably do a real sexy version of that song.
Oh, yeah. Get yourself ready.
know?
Crash Test Dummies are coming to the Yukon.
Oh, and I'm going to be there.
Yeah, you are.
Like, do keep a lid on things. Who put the dog in the doghouse? You did, baby. You did. I could keep a secret, yeah.
Whoa. Oh, my God. Am I turned?
Got my mind on my money. Well, it's mind on your body. I don't even know the words.
That's not the
Fuck
point.
this. I don't know. This is bullshit. It's stupid.
Were you listening to the song earlier, or were you... Is that the part of that?
I was technically listening to the song.
Yeah, is that the part of the media you were consuming?
But I was watching Taylor Swift. I'm sorry. I'm a bad, gross man, but she's so hot.
I get it. On the doc scored, first question comes from Lilith, who asks, Supergirl, what happened? Why is it regarded as such a disaster?
Oh, I mean, I would just implore you to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see why. I mean, the problem with Supergirl is I think there was an early version of the Superman 3 script that was going to introduce Supergirl, and then they ended up like shit canning that for some reason. And then they decided, because Superman 3 was so poorly received, they were like, well, Supergirl will maybe like refresh interest in these movies. It's
Sure.
technically part of this universe. Jimmy is in Supergirl. But right off the bat, can I say that Jimmy is dating like a high schooler in Supergirl?
Okay.
It's not okay.
Nope.
It's pretty bad. He's dating, I'm pretty sure it's Lois's like younger sister or cousin or something, Lucy Lane. Here's my number one problem with Supergirl is it is almost top to bottom poorly acted.
Sure.
With very few exceptions. You have Peter O'Toole playing a character called Zoltar, who's on Argo City. He's great because he's Peter O'Toole. Helen Slater is fine in it, but the bad guy's like a witch. Like so little of it is just anything. And like the action sequences aren't anything. One of them is like she possesses like a bulldozer, and Supergirl has to stop a bulldozer. It's like it's nothing. Like when you think of the scale of Superman things, like in Superman, he has to like fly back in time, or he's got to stop missiles, or he's got to stop the earthquake. Like or he has to stop Kryptonians. And in Supergirl, it's like, oh no, a front end loader. You kind of go like, okay, like they infantilize Supergirl instead of being like, isn't it amazing? She has all these powers. They go like, why don't you handle this kind of threat?
Sure.
It's in a small town, and Superman does not make an appearance. Christopher Reeve was supposed to, and then he was like, no, thank you.
Weird.
Well, I mean, he was probably right.
I mean, true.
But I think it also did hurt the movie.
Yeah.
The problem is it's cheap, it looks like shit, and most of it's poorly acted.
Yeah.
When you just hold up its plot against Superman 3 or 4, it's not vastly worse, technically, but it's really poorly executed. It's just badly done.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is too bad.
Next question comes from Cosmic DM Classic, who asks, will any Superman power top Masonry vision?
I don't see how it could. Yeah, so if you haven't heard us talk about this before, in Superman 4, Quest for Peace, there's a scene where Superman is fixing the Great Wall of China. And he looks at the wall and bricks just start appearing.
Yep.
There's a version of this where you would assume he looks at the wall and then he starts moving at super speed. And if the movie had more budget, maybe you'd see some blurs and it would look like he was putting it up.
That sure isn't what it was.
But that movie kept having its budget fucking slashed, and Christopher Reeve almost had to like self-finance it because no one wanted to make it because Christopher Reeve was like, nuclear disarmament's important to me, and I think Superman would be like, and they were like, nobody cares about peace. Like truly, like he was like, it's a Superman thing, and they were like, yeah, but does it sell? Like that is almost a Superman movie.
Wow.
So he kind of had to get that movie made, and so it was so cheap. And it really looks it. It's bad. You know, we've watched it. It's bad. So what ends up happening in that scene is he looks at a wall and these bricks just appear. And so I call it Masonry vision because it just looks like he's using a vision to build bricks.
Yes.
I mean, could you imagine making that a real power? Like, oh, like Superman, leap over tall buildings, stronger than more powerful than a locomotive, and also sometimes he can see bricks appear.
Yeah, he could leap over tall buildings. Can also make those buildings.
Yeah, yeah. As he looks.
Yeah, he could lift them too if he wanted to because he's strong enough.
Imagine him just using that day to day, like he sees like a bank robbery happening, and he just makes a wall that people like run into, like Looney Tunes style. I mean, that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
It's so not a Superman power, but
totally.
Yeah. I think there's a different version of Superman 4 where that's not what it looks like, where you would see the super speed.
Sure.
As opposed, but they didn't have the money, so it was like, I guess we're doing this. Yeah. It would have been great if they were like, well, he has an amnesia kiss. Do you think he has like a builder's kiss? He just goes up and like kisses the wall. And that'd be really funny.
No, he's got to jerk the fucking cement mixer off. All right.
He has to jerk the cement mixer off.
Yeah.
We'll send something even grosser there.
Hmm?
Well, he just has to put these two fingers in the cement mixer.
Hell yeah.
So gross. See, the thing we were talking about earlier?
Yeah.
This is besmirching Christopher Reeve Superman. That like a flash cameo at the end, you see Christopher Reeve Superman fingering a cement mixer at the Great Wall of China.
Two in the concrete, one in the plaster.
Jesus. Good Lord.
Anyways, next question comes from Commodore Multi Sanchez, who asks, if Christopher Reeve Superman had the power to shoot a mini replica of himself out of his hand, who would you cast as the replica of Superman, assuming it would just be a scaled down Christopher Reeve? I would cast Danny DeVito. So it would be like twins, except with Superman.
Yeah, classic Silver Age comic book power of Superman's was launching a smaller Superman out of his hand. In one of those adventures, the real Superman starts getting jealous of the small Superman.
Fucking love that.
Truly, Silver Age Superman is the most bonkers shit in the world.
Sure. More
bonkers than any other Silver Age character. Silver Age Superman truly pushes the bounds of like readability.
Yeah.
So, sorry, is the question that we can't just have it be a scaled down Christopher Reeve. We have to cast someone else as small Superman.
I guess.
Danny DeVito's hard to beat.
Kenny Baker, I guess, based on the time period.
Oh, fuck.
R2-D2.
Right.
I was like, Warwick Davis, maybe?
Well, sorry, are we saying that we're not doing any forced perspective work at all? We just need someone smaller than Christopher Reeve? We're not doing any work to make them, like, mini size?
He brought up Danny DeVito, so I'm just going...
Well, I know, but I was still picturing Danny DeVito, but, like, the size of, like, a bottle, not...
Sure.
Full-size Danny
then
DeVito.
Why? Then Danny DeVito would be a terrible choice.
Right, I see what you're saying. So we can't even do camera trickery, no forced perspective.
Not with the budget for
he
Superman
just
4.
makes a duplicate.
This is Superman
and
4.
it can't be Christopher Reeve. Well, fuck.
Did Christopher Reeve have a son?
Great question. No idea.
Him.
Nice.
Anyways, let's move on.
No, I'm going to answer this.
Okay.
I think it should be...
Yeah, no. You wanted to keep going.
Tom Selleck.
Perfect option.
So that the only difference is that he's got a mustache.
That makes the new Superman hold on. That makes Batman vs Superman a callback?
No, you're talking about Justice League.
Justice League. Yeah, Justice League is a callback.
Yeah, that's right. To Tom Selleck.
Yeah, as the
Superman duplicate.
Then it made sense, and you wouldn't have to remove the mustache.
That's right.
We should have done it.
Hey, listen, if I ever get flash powers, I'll go back in time and make it happen.
For that reason.
And it won't affect history at all.
Nope, I can't imagine how it would. All right, next question.
People are watching Friends and be like, did you know that guy was the Superman duplicate in Superman 3?
But he's so big.
Yeah, well, I don't know. They just let him keep the mustache. That was the differentiator there. Man, I'm glad they don't make comic book movies anymore.
That was the thing that did it.
Yeah,
that was in the original Superman movie.
Yeah. Kevin Feige and Jeff Johns just Kevin Feige takes his baseball cap off and just walks off, gets a job at a diner. He's like, no, it's better this way.
You can't make superhero movies.
Not like this. I pinned all my hopes on this.
Yeah, no, it can't be done.
No.
It's too much power. Drago the Black Rose asks, why did Superman get Lois pregnant and then run away? He didn't know he was hitting it super raw?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I like the phrase super raw. Feels painful.
Yep.
So, the premise of Superman Returns, the Brandon Routh movie, that is vaguely a sequel to Superman 2, is that Superman has been off-world for 5 years.
Okay.
He's been gone. And then he comes back, and part of what he's dealing with is whether or not people even need him or want him, including the people that were closest to him, like Lois or Perry or whomever. Lois in this movie has, in the interim time, married Perry White's son.
Okay.
Played by James Marsden, Hollywood's most cuckable man.
I mean,
truly, like, how many times could James Marsden get cucked in a movie?
Yeah, that's weird.
I like the idea that, like, agents are going, like, we need a James Marsden type to get fucking cucked.
Wow. The fact that I can think of 3 off the top of my head.
It's a lot. It happens a lot.
What the fuck?
I don't know.
What the fuck?
I don't know. I don't know what it is about him. I don't know how it keeps happening to him.
Anyways,
at any rate, Hollywood,
I actually don't know if I can think of one where he doesn't.
At any rate, Hollywood's most cuckable man. Well, you know where he doesn't get cucked is in Sonic the Hedgehog, because that would be weird.
I want to go fast.
Sonic fucks his girlfriend in front of him.
Yet you were still slower than my partner.
Yeah, you know where these rings go.
You know they call him Tails? Just wait till you meet Knuckles.
Good Lord. Good Lord. Still played by Idris.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna fuck you.
I'm here to fuck.
You can do Statham now.
I don't have any voices. Anyway. So Lois has married Perry White's son, James Marsden, and has a 5-year-old kid named Jason. And Superman comes back and he's like, "Oh, you have a family. That's fine. I haven't been thinking about you."
Yeah. Why does your kid have laser eyes?
Well, partway through the movie, you see him get kind of affected by kryptonite, and then Superman's like, "Is that?" And basically, eventually, Lois is like, "It's your kid." She whispers it to Superman.
You super
shit.
dick.
But by that point in the movie, she's like, "I'm glad you're back" or whatever. But truly, like, Superman is like
stupid concept.
Like the last thing I did before I went to space, because the reason Superman goes to space is that he goes to the ruins of Krypton. It's actually a deleted scene.
Oh wow!
It's him in a crystal spaceship. He's gone to Krypton because I guess astronomers found like where they think it was. Earth astronomers did. And so he goes off into space to like look around. It's all just kryptonite now, and he had to come home. And he comes home, but it took 5 years. It was a long trip. And so that's why he was off planet. But like the last thing he did was bang Lois. He went into space for 5 years. He came back and he's like a 5-year-old kid. Not mine.
Fair.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is also part of the problem with Superman Returns is that some of these things, when you're under scrutiny, don't make sense.
Yeah.
It's fine to say you've been gone, and when you know, and this is your son, and you go like, oh, and he didn't know or whatever. But it's also like, you didn't tell Lois you were leaving, or why? Because in that movie, Lois has won a Pulitzer for writing an article called "Why the World Doesn't Need Superman."
Oh,
yeah, but it's like he didn't go like, oh, I was gonna go explore, blah blah blah, and it's probably gonna take 5 years.
Yeah,
there's nothing like that. He just leaves. So it's like, well, that's, I suppose, Silver Age appropriate. That's sort of a dickish Superman kind of move. But yeah, it doesn't. I think part of the problem with Superman Returns is some of those things don't really make a ton of sense.
5 years?
Oh man. Yeah. My daughter's countdown for my death. Yeah.
4 years now.
Oh fuck. Oh no.
All right, next question from Butt.
Also, is he hitting it super raw? Like, what's more raw than raw?
I'll show you.
Jesus.
You remove the skin.
No. Now I really don't like it. Yikes.
Next question from Butt, who asks, do you think Superman 78 did a good job of actually portraying the personality and tone of the Christopher Reeve Superman films?
I assume we mean the comics. So there's these Superman 78 comics that are set in the world of the movies. And I think Robert Venditti works on that one, actually. The guy that fixed Hawkman.
Sure.
I think that what I've read of them, I think they do a good job of capturing the Donner Superman.
Yeah.
Like, we're not like riffing on Superman 3. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's very important. And we're not riffing on Superman 4 or something like that. We're riffing on Superman the movie and Superman 2.
Yeah.
And so I think they do a decent job of it, but they also, like, they're not beholden, right? Like, they're new adventures. We're doing new things. We're exploring, like, the potential of that world and stuff like that, and what versions of a character might look like. You know, like in the way Batman 66 did, where it's like, we know there wasn't Bane back then, but if there was, maybe he'd be like that. You know,
yeah.
Superman 78 does a little bit of that, and I think there's, I like it. I think it works. I think it's good. I'm just not 100% sure that being that set in that is that exciting for me.
Sure.
I really like those Donner Superman movies. Like, that's not a knock on them. But if you take those, you also have to take Gene Hackman's Lex. And I kind of go like, great. So now he's just the Lex for this.
Yeah.
And then you have to, and.
It becomes less fun, yeah.
It's a little less fun that way, but, like, it's still, like, a fun little diversion kind of thing. I probably like what I've read of it better than what I like of what I've read of the Batman 89 comic.
Sure. All right. Well, then let's finish with the Marvelous Ryan, who asks, what comic stories feel the closest to the 78 universe, not counting the 78 comic, because that's cheating, obviously.
Oh, shit. Oh, that's a good question. What comic story? I mean, Superman is a character you have read a lot of, relatively. Proportionally, all of the things you've read, a lot of it's been Superman. Is there a Superman story or even just idea or little arc or something that you think would actually, like, fit the sort of Christopher Reeve tone, like the sort of style of those movies?
Maybe something like Birthright?
Yeah, I mean, the irony there is that Birthright, you get shades of Birthright in Man of Steel.
Yeah.
Which is, but maybe.
Like Secret Origin?
Yeah, I don't know. There's
some of the post-crisis Superman.
Yeah, I think the real trouble there is...
The problem is so much of it is connected to Man of Steel.
Man of Steel does so much work on, like, the Byrne, Man of Steel, or on, Birthright, or so much of that is in Man of Steel. It is kind of hard to divorce it from that.
I think Secret Origin, like, works well. Like, I feel like it captures a lot of those, like, early days.
We talked about it briefly on the double. I think you could do a Superman Blue story.
Sure.
Electric Blue Superman is such a fucking thing you could do in the Christopher Reeve thing.
Sure.
He goes into the bottle city of Kandor, something goes wacky with his powers, and he has to solve them by the end of the thing. But then you get to kind of recreate some of the beats of the first Superman movie, or even of Superman 2, when he's doesn't have his powers, or when Zod is learning how to use powers, where it's like, well, I've got new powers now. What can I do with them? And he has these, like, energy powers and stuff. Like, I think you could do a Superman Blue thing and I mean, frankly, Superman 3 essentially does a Superman Blue, Superman Red thing when he splits into two. Like, I think you could take some of the existing stuff that is out there of the Christopher Reeve stuff and reapply it with a better story, and I think it works.
Superman Blue is where he shows up and he calls everybody's like fucking pussies and stuff.
Yeah, it's Superman. That's Superman Raw.
Yeah, Superman Red shows up and he's just like, I think people should use their own bathrooms.
Yeah, that's Superman release. Yeah, he does a stand-up. Superman Triggered.
Yeah.
Yeah. The bad Superman, instead of the junkyard fight, he starts doing alt-right comedy.
It's a real fucking Venom Spider-Man for you.
Yeah, that's right.
Dig on this.
Yeah, but that's what I'm going to say of the stuff that, yeah, I'm going to say Electric Blue Superman, you could totally REEVErse.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, for all seasons, baby.
Yeah, I mean, it would be such a different, it'd be so quiet.
Yeah. But we would love to hear from you residents. So why don't you send us a question for next week's episode?
Actually, don't.
Oh.
Because guess what?
What?
Next week is the 400.
Oh, shit.
Can you believe it?
Fuck. Oh,
400 episodes.
Shit.
So we got questions from some past guests and stuff like that, and we'll be like waxing poetic about
I thought that was happening
episodes.
like in 6 months.
The 400th episode?
Based on the email that you had sent people.
Yeah, but I fucked that up and I corrected it to a bunch of people. I know. Do you know what my problem was? I found the email I sent the last time, and then I didn't.
Oh.
At any rate.
Yeah, you did a really cool thing, contacting all these really cool people that spent time
It's
on this
fine. At any rate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's 400. And then what's
Baby.
after that?
401, typically.
That's one more than 400.
Well, do you know what? After that, it's Doctober, and I'm still settling on themes for Doctober.
Well, there you go.
So we'll talk about it next week.
Oh,
Happy Halloween!
Can't wait.
Yeah. I love when my balls are shaved.
Hey, we might get another chance.
Listen, if I get another crack at Manscaped Santa, it's going to be more deranged.
Look, I'm just saying the end of this year is going to have a lot of interesting things that are going to happen.
Yeah, some stuff is happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, baby.
And the way you can stay tuned is by reaching out to us through our various social media platforms.
That's right. We're Dr. DC Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Blue
fucking
Sky.
all of them. Yeah.
We're at Dr. DC on TikTok. If you want to see the TikToks I've been liking lately.
If there's a way to find that out, we're in trouble.
I mean, there is.
Oh.
Did you not know that?
No.
Oh, okay.
Uh-oh.
It's very public.
I don't like anything. I just watch
I
them.
like too much.
Yeah, make sure to go to our website, drdcpodcast.com or .ca. Give us a 5-star review, and we will read that on a future episode. Also, if you want even more content that's not necessarily all comic related, we're in the middle of Challenge Month on Patreon.
That's right. Patreon.com/DrDC. There's a $1, $5, $7 level. They all give you access to the Doc Squad, our awesome Discord fan community. And at the $5 level, you get the Double Dose, our weekly bonus episode. That's where Challenge Month is happening. We've been just doing challenges, hence the name.
All month.
End of pitch. And at the highest level, you get to vote on themes for episodes.
Yeah.
And also there's extra content. The current series right now is Bonding Time, where me and my wife are rewatching every James Bond movie. We just did Live and Let Die, a movie that I could basically sum up as James Bond versus black people.
Cool.
Yep.
We like that.
Well, do we?
Nope.
Okay. Just making sure.
Yeah, no. You know what we do like, though?
Money.
Our other
we just did
podcast.
that. Fuck.
Our other podcast.
Stupid. Fucking stupid. Our other
Jesus
podcast,
Christ.
Ghostfacers, a Supernatural rewatch. We're going through every single episode of the CW Supernatural. We talk real world monster lore, behind the scenes stuff about the show. We talk about what if Duke Nukem was in A Star Is Born? What if strippers were like lawyers?
Yeah, what if blood and cum were together?
Yeah, what if there was a restaurant called Universal Donair?
All this
and more on Ghostfacers.
That's it for this week.
Adios.
Ciao.
Heroes, they always fight for what is right. Live with danger and adventure, they are men of might.
This was a Brain Freeze podcast.